You know, we often think of sci-fi movies for those truly mind-bending worlds, right? But what if I told you some of the strangest, most unbelievable things aren't on some distant planet, they're happening right here on Earth? Seriously, our own planet has these phenomena that are so bizarre, they just feel like they shouldn't be real. We're about to dive into some wonders that'll make you wonder if you've stepped into a movie.
So I want you to keep this one question in your head as we go through this. Do you actually believe this stuff happens on our planet? Let's find out if reality is really stranger than fiction. I think it is.
All right, first up, our journey begins by just looking up. And I'm not talking about Hollywood special effects. Forget all that CGI. The sky puts on its own show. And trust me, it's way better.
So in this section, we're going to check out 3 of the most incredible things you can see up there. The famous northern lights, these weird things called fire rainbows, and yeah, clouds that look a whole lot like UFOs.
Okay, just picture this for a second. You're out somewhere, it's a cold, clear night, you look up, and the sky just explodes. These huge ribbons of green and pink light start dancing across the darkness. It's like these giant glowing curtains are swaying in the wind. It feels like straight up magic from another world.
So what is that? Is it magic? Aliens? Nope, it's the aurora borealis. And the science behind it is honestly just as cool. All that light is just what happens when particles from the sun, the solar wind, slam into the gases in our atmosphere. So that beautiful, graceful dance, it's actually a massive, high-energy cosmic collision. How cool is that?
But wait, the sky's light show isn't over. Sometimes you might look up and swear there's an alien invasion happening. I'm talking about clouds that are shaped like a perfect stack of flying saucers. Or maybe you'll see something that looks for all the world like a piece of a rainbow that's on fire, just hanging out up there. So what's the deal with these? Well, those UFOs are actually called lenticular clouds. They get that crazy shape when damp air flows over a mountain. And that fire rainbow? Yeah, not fire. It's just sunlight hitting millions of tiny ice crystals way up in the clouds. It's basically a perfect illusion, all thanks to physics.
Okay, so the sky is full of secrets, but it's not the only place. Let's come back down to Earth for a minute because sometimes the ground itself seems to be alive with its own mysteries.
Get this, you're in the middle of a huge, flat, dry lake bed. Death Valley, basically. And you see these big rocks. Some of them weigh hundreds of pounds, and behind them are these long tracks in the dirt. It's obvious they've moved, but there's nobody around. No one for miles. How in the world does a giant rock move on its own? It sounds totally impossible, right? Like some kind of miracle?
So how does it happen? I mean, for years, this was a huge mystery, but scientists finally figured it out. They're called sailing stones, and for them to move, you need this perfect, kind of bizarre set of conditions. First, the ground gets a little bit of rain, just a thin layer of water. Then, it has to get cold enough to freeze that water into a huge, thin sheet of ice. And then, all you need is a gentle breeze to push that giant sheet of ice, and the ice just drags the rocks along with it. It's so simple, and yet so incredibly rare.
All right, from rocks that move on their own, let's talk about water that looks like it's from another planet. Seriously, we're talking about lakes and waterfalls that just do not look like they belong on Earth. When you think of a waterfall, you're picturing clear water, right? Maybe a little bluish. But what if I told you there are waterfalls that glow with these amazing greens and pinks and even purples? It wouldn't even look like water anymore. It would look like a painting that's alive and moving.
And yeah, these rainbow waterfalls are totally real. The secret isn't magic, it's geology. The water flows over rocks that are packed with certain minerals, and it picks them up. Those dissolved minerals then mess with how the water reflects light, and boom, you get these incredible colors. It's like a giant chemistry experiment happening out in the wild.
And it's not just waterfalls. Check out these lakes. On one side, you've got Lake Hillier in Australia, and yes, it is actually that color, a bright bubblegum pink. Then you have Lake Natron in Africa, which is this deep, almost scary crimson red, and no one's dumping dye in there. The crazy colors come from tiny little microorganisms that love super salty water. They're real places that look completely 100% alien.
Okay, so we've seen dancing lights, sailing rocks, and bubblegum pink lakes. It's pretty clear that nature is capable of some seriously weird and beautiful stuff. So what does this all mean? What's the big takeaway here?
Well, I think it brings us to a pretty cool realization. We spend all this time watching sci-fi movies looking for strange new worlds. right? But what all this proves is that nature's imagination is just way more powerful than ours. The craziest stories, the most unbelievable sights, they're not out there in space. They're happening right here. Our own planet is way stranger than anything we could make up.
So let me ask you, which one of these just blew your mind the most? Was it the northern lights, the impossible moving rocks, or that crazy pink lake? It really makes you think. What other unbelievable things are out there on our own planet, just waiting for us to find them?